Hello, beloveds. I hope the sound is okay. We are here in the ocean, and I've been contemplating on the ocean for a long time. So I decided now to speak about it. It's not a proper, well-researched, but I've been thinking about it for a long time, and I thought I should share it right away. So I hope the sound of the waves are not too overwhelming. Let's see later. But yeah, let's start to make some questions that I'll be putting in this video that have made me truly obsessed with for a long time. I mean, just look at this landscape behind me. What an amazing cliff. I mean, so why are there oceans? Why is the sea so big, so vast that it swallows almost all planets? I mean, it's everywhere, and it makes me wonder, why is it there? What is beneath it? Why is it so salty? I mean, dang, there's so much water, and the majority of it we cannot drink from it. Why isn't it sweet? It could be sweet, you know, it could be sweet, there wouldn't be any danger. But now it's so salty that even doctors tell you, no, don't drink from it. It's not good for you. And you know, there's a part of me that really obsesses over this, and this is mostly because I live in Portugal. We are in Portugal right now, by the way. And we Portuguese are a people of a great coastline. So we are used to looking at the ocean and wonder about it. We have a great culture of melancholy, of a great melancholic songs of fado, and even our writings in poetry are truly melancholic, and we are processing these dense emotions, and somehow these dense emotions tend to come and tend to be processed as we are close to the sea as well, and to the ocean. Now, another thing that is very well known throughout all cultures is that the sea, the ocean, is a symbol for the subconscious, for the unconscious too, for that which we have not yet tapped in, that which is in our shadows. So you know, the lady that looks in the sea is a symbol for Portugal, because we are located in a place that is just straight looking at the sea, like I am now. And yeah, so I'd like to discuss these things. This video will be about these things, if you're interested in this theme. And to start with, I wrote a little story That's right. I wrote a little story that I will be telling you now that encapsulates all of my concerns with the ocean. And after that, through this story, I will proceed to try and answer these questions that I just put up. Okay, so let's start. Once upon a time, there were huge forests. The giant trees that would make our biggest trees of today look like baby shoots. These forests rooted throughout all the earth. The water flowed everywhere, sweet and alive through rivers, lakes, sea banks of crystalline, sweet waters. The plants provided food for both human and animals. No species had the need to kill each other. For the abundance of the earth provided all the joy and satisfaction that we all need. Humans are sustained through breath. The breeze of the plant's pollen make great food and smell for the people. Humans started eating the fruits more and more. They would mistake their delight for their true food, the air. The more obsessed they became with eating, with the material, they started to consume all sorts of plants. Not just the fruits, but also the vegetables, the roots, the grains, until they had to start clearing forests to make all sorts of wood objects, and also to make space for grains. For at some point, everyone was eating bread, and it required the fires to clear the forests, to clear the lands, and it also required fire for baking more wood to be burned. Throughout all these plains, cows and goats would eat all of the pasture, and we humans started to be proud to own these animals. For we started to slaughter them and drink their blood. We started to drink their milk as well, first and foremost, to make weird concoctions, recipes, and all sorts of culinary inventions for our own pleasure. At this point, humans started to change so much from their pristine origins that they were more exhausted, they lived a shorter time, they were impatient, they were irritable because they lost their recognition of their own divinity, and they started to project their divinity in objects around them. So they started to believe that to be worthy, they had to consume these things and to own these things. They started to associate their addiction to satisfaction, and their own bodies started to become more sick, more obstructed with these matters that nature cannot consume. It can only retain and purge. They became more pale, more sick. They started sleeping long during the night. When they started eating their fellow animals, their thirst for violence increased, and it was then that wars and conflicts between humans started to happen. As the flesh-consuming humans had their slaughtered blood running through their bodies, these bodies start to release stimulating acids. And the humans mistake these sensations for vitality, because it's been a long time that they felt their true vitality. And having long forgotten the requirement of a clean vessel for true long-lasting vitality, they mistakenly thought that the acidic stimulation of blood drinking was their drink of immortality. So here they became obsessed by the blood of the bull, thinking, surely this is a true drink of immortality. The more they drank, the more debauchery behavior they engaged in. They started to produce alcohol inside of their bodies as these substances fermented from all of the mucus and pus that was attached inside of them. Parasites started to inhabit their bellies. And so the more mad they became, because inside they were all the time suffering. The wars and killing each other, the burning more and more forests. The land started to look like a desert in many, many places. No roots to hold the ground. And because of this, one day, all of a sudden, a great body of water came to swallow all the deserted land, destroying the cities, devouring the plains, leaving all the great civilization underwater to be drowned in salty particles that contain the memory of these ancestors. So here we are, brothers and sisters. Here we are now, looking at the ocean and wondering, what the hell, man? Why Whoa, okay, okay. This is not by chance. Truly, my friends, I believe, I not only believe, I know it intuitively. There's something about the landscape and us humans and our behavior, okay? I don't think it is by chance that the landscape looks a certain way, you know? It is here to show us something. It is here to be a mirror of our own behavior, of our own inside, of our bodies, of our physiology too. I mean, look, for example, just in my own experience, for me to leave the breath has been the most challenging of addictions. And I know it is because I have a long line of ancestors behind me that formed my blood, that ate bread generation after generation. And this is in my blood. That is why it's so difficult to stop eating these things, to stop engaging in certain ways of living. But it is very possible, and I am convinced that it can be done in 1 or 2 lifetimes. I mean, not completely, but a great deal, you know? So this leaves me to wonder about physiology, which is the thing that I want to pick up on. Because in this story, truly, I mean, first of all, okay, what does this story remind you of? Surely there are countless stories about tsunamis, about water swallowing in entire populations. And is this not the story in the Bible too? So this makes me wonder about human physiology and its evolution over time. We are not the same as we were when these big forests were on the planet. And you may wonder, where have you heard about this? Why are you talking about the big forests? We have big forests. No, we don't have big forests. The forests we have today are distorted. They are very, very tiny. They are not as biodiverse even as the glory of the earth can produce, you know? And it is the fault of human behavior. I mean, we are the earth itself. We are the earth itself. Our bodies are made of the earth itself. So anything we do, it affects everything in the planet. It's not like, oh, I'm here, an individual living and separated from everything. That's not it. Everything we do has a ripple effect. And if you're not harmonious with your actions, if you're not coherent with natural law, it will create distortion and it'll create a separation. And this is what creates over time disasters, what we call disasters, which in fact it's the earth balancing itself. Because guess what? When you have desert land all over, and by desert I mean you don't have trees, okay? It doesn't have to be like, because if you only have tiny plants living in the desert, or grains, you know, you have no roots that can sustain all of this ground. So what happens? Earth, in order to balance it, needs to wash it down. Otherwise the humans will keep destroying the ground, and the ground doesn't hold, so it sunks in. And when the waves come to wash, they form the salt, which is these particles that are just left floating beneath the water, because they don't have the plants to filter them, to transform them, to transmute them into vitality, into other things. They just concentrate in these salt particles. And now I want to introduce you an ocean. Why is the ocean salty? Why is our tears salty? Why do we have salt in our bodies? Why is there so much salt in the ocean especially? Well, there is a verse of our great poet Camões that says, "Ó mar salgado, quanto do teu sal são lágrimas de Portugal." And this translates as, "O salty sea, how much of your salt is tears of Portugal?" Now, Camões was telling the story of how Portuguese went with ships to sail throughout the planet on a big voyage, and Portuguese were the first Europeans to, well, the first. But yeah, a great, one of the great countries to explore the ocean. And in his epic poem, where he binds Christianity with Greek mythology and all sorts of stories too, he tells about the Portuguese people, that their efforts to explore the ocean, and he was questioning how much of the sea is actually our tears. But the way he tells it, it makes me wonder not only about us Portuguese as a culture, you know, taking all this effort and pain and sorrow to explore the oceans, not only that, but truly it makes me wonder, what is salt? Why is it in our tears? Why is salt in our tears when we wash away emotions that cause us grief and sorrow, and we need to cry them, to express them, to release these emotions? Then if the salt that we are releasing through the tears, isn't it the same salt that is in the sea? And this makes me question how much of the sea, of the ocean salt, is actually our trauma. So okay guys, I forgot to make a point. So I talked about salt as being trauma too. So what I mean by trauma is actually, more precisely, unprocessed memory. So salt contains memory, as in stones contain memory, bones contain memory. Salt as well, it contains memory, simply is a more tiny particle. And as these unprocessed memories are again processed by us, we start to release these emotions that are unprocessed, as the salt is also released through our bodies. And it is memory is contained in our big mother ocean right there. She's dealing with it and waiting for us to catch up with her. So yeah, just making clear that memory is also salt, okay? So let us remember in these lives now, in the dawning of the age of Aquarius, let us remember again these past memories through the salt and through our landscapes and through our cleansing diets too. That sure helps. So just a note about that. I know I didn't associate memory before, I think, and that's a really important key here. I'm a bit, I know I'm a bit all over the place here, a bit, but yeah, man, is salt also trauma? These particles of salt just floating, isolated from the earth, isn't it unresolved trauma? And doesn't that explain why our symbol for the ocean is the unconscious and the subconscious and all these things that are in our collective shadow that are yet to be unresolved, all these emotions that are yet to be felt and to be transmuted? So there is my point about the salt and how it's interesting. It is very interesting. Oh wow, I just see a crab there. Hello, crab. Oh my god, it's so cute. Let me see if I show it to you. Wow, it's a little crab. I don't know if you see it, but it's moving there. Okay, back to our conversation. So now let's look at salt in terms of physiology. Arnold Verret has an interesting take on this, which I think I'm going to check it out really quick, and we're going to go back to this symbol of salt, and also I will be diving deep into my roots, because the Portuguese people are very connected to the ocean. I mean, we are next to the ocean, as you can see, all the time, and we have this inner melancholy in our culture that is so profound, you know what I mean? And we have this poetic, very poetic inner core that makes us just need Like it's such a strong need to express it and to sing about it and to write about it and to draw and to paint about it. It is truly strong here. And of course there's many, if we went deep into that, I would have to make another video speaking about the Portuguese melancholy and also the prophecy of Portugal and all its stories, but that would be too long. Now let's focus on physiology and salt. Okay, and we are back, and so I always have the mucusless diet healing system as a reference, because it really is the most powerful book that I've ever encountered. And I love books. I mean, I love to read all kinds of books, but this one really makes me wonder about many things, not just diet or health, but many things, because guess what? It is all connected. Yeah, just like the story I've told you now, which, yeah, we haven't gotten into the behavior part yet of the whole thing about trauma and violence. But I just want to get this straight first, the physiology, because truly, okay, so you have salt, yes, which is associated with the mineral salt in our bodies. And we believe we need minerals in our bodies and salt to survive. But is that the case? Why is there a need for mineral salts in our bodies? Well, I never wondered about it. I just assumed that need was inherent before I read the mucusless diet, because I loved salt. I love salty things, and I felt that my body needed salt, because whenever I ate salty things, which was actually the items I craved the most, was salty items and fatty items, I felt as if I would feel comfortable whenever I had salt. It was as if salt was sort of retaining all my insecurities, all my trauma, all my mucus. I didn't know about that before, but I felt that way. I felt that in order to feel comfortable and to be stable, even emotionally, I'd had to eat salty items, salty foods. And there is a physiological reason for that. So let's read what Arnold Verrett has to say about salt in his book, Mucusless Diet Healing System, The Transition Diet Part 3, Lesson 17. Vegetarian recipes revisited. So here he's talking about substitutes for salt, especially. Some improved recipes of salad dressings. Condiments are much less harmful than mucus-forming foods. The so-called poisonous table salt is a very good mucus dissolver. The average mixed starch eater could not stand this diet without salt. Of course, with the perfect mucusless diet, the want and need of salt will be eliminated automatically, and with that, the unnatural thirst. So let's stop here. And let's really look at what he's saying. He's really saying that it is very unlikely that you would want to transition to a mucusless diet with no salt, because, and that is, I can confirm that because I've always been obsessed with salty items, and I had to eat salt when I'm transitioning. Even now, I sometimes eat some items with salt, mainly toasted wheat bread, and also the seaweeds. Seaweeds are the best, man. I love seaweeds because I do still have that craving for salt, and it's a much better craving to have than for heavy starches or grains, because like he's saying here, he says the so-called poisonous table salt is a very good mucus dissolver. Now, first of all, this makes me question, is it a good mucus dissolver? But then I wonder, that makes sense. At least for me, my own experience, as I experienced to eat salty items, I feel that when I eat salty items, that I feel more alleviated from all the mucus I still have in my body. And second, it doesn't mean it's good per se, because like he's saying, it's poisonous for a reason. And he's talking about table salt, not about like other salts. But honestly, I think it's the same. I think salt has the same effect anywhere. And of course, maybe it's way better if you eat other salts than table salt, but I do think that what salt does is that it absorbs the mucus. Think about it. Salt makes us thirsty, right? And it basically, it like sucks in all the minerals. It's not that it sucks in, but it's like a concentration of all the minerals. That's why it's salty. It tastes salty, because it's these concentrated minerals into a bowl that enable the water to flow around it. So you can imagine this inside the body, and you can also imagine this in the ocean, right? Because in order for the water to flow and to contain at the same time all this salt, the salt needs to be concentrated into these particles. So just like it happens in our bodies, the mucus is concentrated into this white slimy stuff, because if it was just spread all around, we will die very quickly. But because the body concentrates it in order to, in an attempt to clean it, to order it, we live longer, even if it's, well, questionable to the quality of vitality we have. But either way, we live longer because of that, because matter attracts matter and it condenses. So when we eat salt, the salt is really preserving these particles, so these particles do not just burst out in our bodies and possibly create some dangerous afflictions, symptoms. And that's why, in my experience, I'm not talking about science or anything, guys. I'm no scientist. I'm just here trying to make questions and learn about stuff. Okay? Yeah. So when we eat salt, we feel alleviated because it's think about it. What is a salt? Why do you use salt? To preserve meat, to preserve dead animal flesh. First of all, we started to use salt as a civilization. Check out, you go and see a documentary on YouTube about salt. Is a guy, he makes food documentaries, and he has one just about salt and how salt is important for our civilization. Yeah, man, salt is a preservative of dead matter and other things, but mostly dead matter. That's why we have been obsessed with salt for a long time, because it was the only way we could have eaten that animal flesh for a long time, was to use salt. So think about it. If you have a decaying body and you surround it with salt, the salt will preserve it in such a way that this decaying matter will not putrefy, but stay just the same, dry, and it will make it so that it will absorb the salt too, and the salt will absorb the meat, and it will kind of bind everything together in a stagnant matter, you know. So when we eat these foods that are pus forming and mucus forming, and then we of course eat salt, we feel alleviated, because the mucus and pus we are ingesting will not have the same effect as we would have if we eaten it without salt. Because I believe if we eaten these things without salt, guys, we would feel worse instantly. Okay, we would be sick more often. But because we eat salt, the salt preserves these substances inside our body in such a way that it stagnates them, doesn't let them flow through the lymphatic system, through the blood, through the breath, and it stays stuck in our bodies. So we don't feel sick, but at the same time we are obstructed and we are stagnated in a way. Either way, you cannot do it forever. You cannot stagnate nature forever, you know. Even salty stuff will have a way to flow in and be washed, because this is what the sea is doing. It is for me, it is eager. Like all this salt in the sea is eager to return to the earth and to let plants absorb it and filter it into love, into light, into beautiful tasty fruits and beautiful tasty vegetables, which by the way, some are very salty because they contain a lot of minerals. And I'm not saying, oh, salt is bad, don't eat salt. I'm not either saying that it's good and you should eat it, you know, but I'm saying that in our condition as a civilization, surely we need a certain amount of minerals in our food in order to flush these particles and flush out this excess mucus, pus and waste matters out of our system, if you want to have a clean vessel. If not, then you better eat salt, dude, because if you want to, surely salt will be in your diet if you don't want to have a clean vessel, and that's okay. I mean, we are here to experience life in all the many ways, right? Okay, so if I were to define salt, I would say that salt is trauma, yet to be filtered by the plant kingdom. And not only the plant kingdom, I mean also our bodies too. Let me add that as well as our bodies. And I do believe that in order for salt to be filtered through the plant kingdom, it needs to happen at the same time that our bodies are also flushing out the salt that is contained in them. And we would stop to eat the majority of salty items. I mean, have you just think about the amount of salt that is everywhere? Like each time you go to a restaurant, there is salt in that dish. All of them. You know, either salt or sugar. But I mean, if you want to eat a regular meal, or even the simplest meals have salt. My God. And I want to question why, you know? It's just why I hear crazy lady in the sea questioning why is there so many waves, salty waves inside of us, outside of us. Even now, okay, so now the experience of being in the sea is quite like I feel the salt in the air. And I know, and many of you know, if you're gardeners and if you live close to a coastline, the gardens here near the coast are so rich. They have a lot of minerals in their plants. The plants are like voluptuous, and it is not only because of the sunny atmosphere here, but the fact that it's close to the sea. Like these salt particles are also in the air, and they float around, and the plants absorb them. The plants are able to absorb them and flush them out. And I believe my body is doing that now because I feel it, you know. This is not the most pleasant thing to smell, the salty sea, but it is not like unpleasant either. I mean, I still can feel an affinity because when I smell it, it's like it helps me to pull out the salt that is still stuck inside of me, and not only that salt, but the mucus that is still stuck inside of my body. So it's like pushing out this through the breath, these things. And you know, a lot of people say, oh, it's healthy to go to the beach because of the air of the sea and whatnot. And I do believe it's because we have a lot of mucus and pus and salt inside of us, and by breathing this air, it helps to flush out what is stuck inside, to make things move, you know. Because really, if what Eret is saying here about salt, what is Eret? That it is a great mucus dissolver. So whenever we have salt floating around us and inside of us, it helps to dissolve mucus by absorbing it. So imagine if you have like, okay, if you have like a great ball of mucus and pus, okay, floating inside your blood. It's floating inside the blood, and here comes a nice particle of salt crystals. Okay, salt crystals. And the salt starts to absorb some of these mucus. So then this becomes like a salt particle and a big one with a lot of mucus attached around it and little mucus here is floating. You can see. So then these minerals, these salts, carry the excess mucus that have dissolved from these great slimy mucus going through our bodies. And I think this is the reason why we think we need salt. I mean, it's a need in the sense that it has a mechanical purpose, but ultimately it needs to be flushed out. Because it is also an obstruction, you see? It's not like, hey, I need salt, like, sure, but it's I see that as a transitional tool too. That is very unique because it has a function. Just like what it is doing in the sea. It's not by chance that the sea requires salt. I mean, if truly the ocean has drowned all these ancient civilization, all these traumatic things that happened and mistakes that we made through wrong eating, through wrong behavior, that has caused the deserted landscapes, then the ocean is here and the salt to clean that off. So yeah, man, I'm not sure if I'm being clear enough, you know, but I hope I planted at least a seed inside of your mind that makes you really question the nature of our landscapes. Look around you. Look around you where you live, where you are. What is the landscape like? How does the landscape play in the way humans behave? And this makes me question, okay, if we eat that animal flesh, how is our behavior changed? Because you see, if you go back to the story, you can go back and listen again if you don't remember. But I really talked about how when a human eats that animal flesh, especially that animal flesh, our body needs to release these stimulating acids in order to dissolve these decaying matter. Just like in nature, when there's a decaying body, some sort of dissolution needs to happen. I mean, it's not going to stay there forever. It smells, you know. So it requires also animals to dissolve it, parasites and whatnot. But the first sensation we really feel in our bodies when we eat that animal flesh is the acidic stimulation. And because we are so stagnated, because we have eaten these grains for generations and generations, and our physiology is so stagnated that when we eat a piece of meat, we feel like we feel grounded, we feel invigorated, we feel but this is simply the acid being released in our stomachs to burst that waste matters out. It is not a requirement, man. You know? It is not. I'm dead tired. I have this issue because I try to explain things in a smooth way, but sometimes, man, there's no smooth way to tell this, but you don't require it. But I do feel you, brother and sister, that we feel that we require dead animal flesh to ground ourselves, because truly we have forgotten, our bodies have forgotten what it's like to have a pristine, clean physiology, and it is easier for us to eat a bit of dead meat and feel grounded by having all these sensations and stimulations happening inside of us than to continue, the process, the long process of healing. It's a long process because we have fucked up our physiology for a long time. Ancestral generations ago, it's a long journey to go back to this clean physiology. So, but there's no need to keep eating that animal flesh. I don't believe so. I do think it's the first and most easy item to let go of if you want to go to the path of truly cleaning your vessel. But it does require transition, and it does require patience, and it does require the understanding of why do you feel stimulated when you eat these items, and it does require you to understand that these decay matter automatically forms pus. And pus is more concentrated, and it is stored in more inner parts of the body. So not so much the mucus fat or something, but like more delicate vessels, which Eric talks about it, the meat eater compared to the so it talks about it comparing the carnivore eating, the meat eater, compared to the vegetarian glutton. The vegetarian glutton that eats all sorts of things instead of animal flesh. Anyway, I can read about that because it's quite interesting now. Let me show if I find it. Okay, I think I'm gonna switch places because it's getting too sunny for rooming. We're gonna go close to that rock. Okay, I found it. So, well, first of all, when a person tends to eat more dead animal flesh than any other mucus forming items like starches and whatnot, the body of that person tends to be more lean and also more acidic. That is why people mistake having good metabolism for being lean and looking good, and all these things, but in reality they do eat that animal flesh, and actually they have a lot of acid running through their bodies because the body requires acid to dissolve all the pus from the dead decaying animal flesh, as well as parasites. Let's not forget about that. So then Arnold Ehret says that the reason a one-sided meat eater can live a relatively longer time than the vegetarian starch eater, is easy to understand after having learned lesson 5. The first one produces less solid obstructions by smaller quantities of meat foods than the starch overeater. But their later diseases are more dangerous because they accumulate more poisons, pus and uric acid. So, yes, being lean is not necessarily a good sign of health. You know, it may be very bad indeed. And you can live a longer time, but I make this question in what is the quality of your life, you know? If you have all this acid running through you, aren't you going to be annoyed more often? Aren't you going to behave in more strange ways without knowing why, you know, with always having to deal with your strange inner thoughts and whatnot? And surely one can meditate and learn to deal with these things in multiple ways. But what if there was a more strategic, wise way to deal with trauma all at once that, you know, did not require all of these gymnastics, all of these I'm gonna do yoga, or I'm gonna do breath work and meditate. And surely those are all fine. They're all, I love them. They're wonderful exercises and practices. But truly, to be free from all the symptoms that are caused by these things, we have to deal with them, with the core issue, with the core behavior that produces and causes the other behaviors. Why are there wars? Why are there people invading countries? Why are there people killing children? What would make somebody want to kill a child? Want to destroy even more forests? Want to behave in such ways? Truly, have you ever seen a mucusless eating person eating fruits and behaving badly, other than what I'm doing now, which is truly questioning these things? And yes, I'm using my angry side and aggression to make these questions, because they need to be made more often, and not to annoy you, but to make your life better, to make our lives better, to make our planet better. You know, if you have a dirty room and you expect to have fun in the dirty room, I mean, you can have fun for a while, but then you're gonna start smelling the dirt, you know. It's gonna, like, wow, this is not great to be here, you know. You start smelling the gunk, the dust, you start sneezing, you start feeling like, oh, we should open a window, you know, we should clean this, you know. You start feeling bad because really the energy is stagnated, and our bodies are inner rooms inside of ourselves, which we are always experiencing them and projecting them outside of ourselves. So why not clean the fucking room? Oh, I'm remembering now Jordan Peterson as this thing, go clean your room, you know? Yes, why not? Start cleaning your inner room and see what happens. See how your behavior changes. No person eating vegetables will ever want to even be violent. I mean, no, that only happens when you have acid in your body trembling and stimulating you to do these things, to behave in these ways. And the trauma that is inside of us then acts with these behaviors of eating and producing this stimulation, and then we act in unconscious ways. Yes, it's true, dog. Even dogs, man. If you start transition a diet of the dog, you'll start notice it will not bark so often. It will not be so annoying. It will just be more chilling, you know, more. I noticed that with Room. I still give him regular dog food, and sometimes he does get such annoying dog, you know. It's like it's like rambling and going like this and this. And even doing this with me, you know, like he wants massages, he wants something to move his obstructions, like he feels it and then just asks me for it, you know. And we are the same. We require massages, yoga, extraneous exercise, all these things. We need to move this trauma, bond, salty stuff inside of us, like the sea. It needs to be in constant motion to truly move the salt to the earth, and so the plants can slowly start to absorb this salt and process it. Okay, guys, this was a good run. I loved it. I hope I can refine more these themes throughout time. No rush, no pressure. Right now, I'm simply expressing and realizing I don't need to be perfect too. Now I'm on a more personal note. Truly, honestly, I was very reluctant to start this video because, you know, look at me. I'm like, I've been traveling these days, especially I thought I would like go to some places I wanted to visit, but there's so much tourism right now in Portugal in, you know, summer, that I came to the beach and sunbathe, and that's it. And now I wonder about the ocean, and I thought this is a time I want to share something about the ocean. And I look like really, like I have these braids for days, you know, and I leave my hair like this because I don't have to like comb it all the time. I can protect it in braids, and I like it. I feel comfortable with it. But I'm aware I look a bit crazy, which is, but I'm fine with it. I'm so comfortable. Yeah, I mean, good, good release. Yeah, I feel great. I feel great traveling and wondering about these things, and start sharing it, because that's what we're here to do. I cannot keep it inside of my mind and inside of my books and inside of my sketches any longer. I need to start talking about it. So I hope you enjoyed it and have a good rest of the day.